And the next group of paintings I'd like to talk about are inspired by the artist Claude Monet, in particular his paintings of water lilies. Now obviously as an art teacher I was aware of Monet, the artist, and the impressions and the work he did in his life story, but I never looked to him as inspiration for the work I was doing. I didn't see a connection really between it at all. I was painting East Coast landscapes mostly, and his paintings of Paris and Giverny, while I enjoyed them, and were not something I looked to for inspiration. But as I say, that all changed one day when I found this book, and I think it was actually a bookshop in Stonehaven. It's a combination of photographs and his paintings, and there was this photograph on the front. I did something, actually I could do that, or something like that. It wasn't what I thought about as Monet's work, and so I did. I think one of the first ones I did was just a fairly straightforward copy of that with watercolour, and the focal point of the beautiful lily, and it opened up a whole new world to me. And I started painting. I looked at his other work, and suddenly, if I go inside, you'll see this idea. He lived in Giverny for nearly 40 years. A lot of the time he had bad eyesight and problems, and he painted his garden, the Japanese garden, but towards the end he only painted the water and the lilies. There was nothing else in his picture except the water and the lilies, and that's what kind of appealed to me. So I think in one of my first exhibitions in the Heinzel, I did a variation on this. This was my approach on it, and I enjoyed doing it, and they were really popular. Folks seemed to respond to them really well, and I continued to paint them regularly because they're actually different. It's a totally different approach from my normal work, so it was almost like having a break. I would do a water lily painting just to, again, like loosen up, as I keep saying, where you could, the paint was much more liquid, much more fluid. It seems logical. It's water you're trying to paint, and so you can make it drippy. The colours. I was probably known best for reds and orange colours, but you could experiment with blues and greens and purples and concentrate on them. There are 2 or 3 water lily paintings in the solo show at the Heinzel, which I'm particularly proud of. And one of them is this long format painting. See, these were long format, and they're a great way to use up the offcuts you get as well. And that you can, if this is in your studio, instead of just throwing it in the fire, the wood that is, not the painting, you can play about with it. At the end of each day, you've always got some spare time with it. You've got paint on your palette, and you're not, you don't have to want to think too much about it. So you can layer this and that until eventually you say, all right, I'm going to make this a painting, and then you go ahead and so you're transforming that to that. I think once you could see the jump, it's not this bit is the fun. This bit, there's a bit more application and skill goes into it. Underneath that's quite interesting. It was a long concertina sketchbook I used, and you're not sure what to do with them when you've finished them. And I thought that might make a nice long painting. And the immediate thing was to try and do a Giverny type painting. Most Europeans will read it that way, and it's one of these paintings I do where you're trying to make every square inch interesting. There shouldn't be, you'd be able to take a little mount and put it over any bit, and you'd have a nice little painting. There's no filler bits. They're all meant to be explode something. I mean, you have bits like that. That's the symbol for Harris Gin Distillery. So it's no logical point, and putting there, but I can't get that precision and that black, that white really any other way with it, spending weeks trying to paint it. So it brings, when you look long there, it's like a pause. You've got to pause there and move on. So there's a painter will see some of the artifice, if you like, in creating something like that, make it look, but hopefully there's a lot of art in it as well, which is where the splashy bits, little accidents happen, and that red, the light blue and the dark blue, you couldn't plan that, I don't think. It has to happen, then you recognise it happens, and you decide to leave that, and maybe paint over that. And these are the decisions that you have to make every all day, every day when you're trying to make a painting. So I thought that was a successful painting, but the ones I'm going to show you now, I'm particularly proud of, and I'll talk about them separately. Hopefully you managed to listen to the piece about Monet I did before about how I started doing the water lily paintings. And I mentioned Giverny, and I've also mentioned in another talk where unless I've been somewhere, I can't really paint the picture. So I have to fess up a little bit. You know, I hadn't been to Giverny, although I wanted to go, but I did an extra thing. I built my own pond with water lilies, which you can see out the window there, so that I'll still stand by my original take. Although I don't have a bucket list as such, going to Giverny was something I'd always thought that would be nice to do. And just last year, 2022, I think, I had the chance, my wife and I went on a river cruise, and it was a wonderful experience to stand on the Japanese bridge that Monet painted so often and look at the lilies were just coming out. It was early in the day and they weren't fully out, but you got an idea. And then the house as well is fantastic. I got a lot out of it, but you're never sure if it's going to make a difference to your painting. I mean, I'd painted dozens and dozens of water lily paintings. Was being in Giverny going to make a difference? I think I came back and I had an idea. We'd try a water lily painting, and this was the first one I did on my return from Giverny. And I think, if I say so myself, I think there was a big, development in the work, having been there and immersed in it. So it proved, I think I'm right, you do have to be there. And it's also, I mean, it's not completely Giverny. There is the pond, big pond near where we live. This idea of this, when the sun shines through it and through the reeds, and the reflections are things which I have seen before, but I don't know whether it gave it more authenticity or something, but it gave me more, maybe slightly more into my work. I try to make sure my work doesn't get overdone or overworked, because I think it takes away something, the freshness from it. But so these were quite tricky to do. And to do them not painting them in a kind of small brushes, sort of like knitting them together, but doing them loose, that word again, loose, trying to keep everything loose and fresh. So I came up with this idea. It's still very liquid paint, but I've never had a water with just so much yellow. Usually this is the colour palette for the lilies, but I hope you get the idea there of shadow, sunlight, reflection. I think these are the things I was really after, and it's a dense painting. I think, again, as I said, you can look inch by inch and have something to see, even in the passages there. There's dribbly paint and things underneath which come through, which are all leave to and the unexplained, really. That this would, you'd have to say, is, why is that there? Because I want it to be there, basically. I don't think I paint much better than that. That's, if you want something better, it might be better going somewhere else, because that's about as good as I can do. I think something I'm very pleased with. Not that the other ones weren't any good, but there's just something about I felt maybe closer to Monet. Maybe just because I'm getting older as well. He was an old man when he painted these pictures. But there is a companion piece. This is obviously a summer painting, and there's a winter painting. I'm really thrilled that they're getting hung together in a big show, and people get a chance to see them and maybe get an understanding of what my work's trying to be about. The title of this painting is Giverny Winter, I think. This is the companion piece to the last painting I talked about. The first one was Giverny in summer, and if anything, it's probably a more loose interpretation of what I saw. This was the result of a visit to Giverny, to Monet's garden in Giverny, where he did all his work, and I think the inspiration of being there does come through in the work rather than just making something. There's almost a spiritual aspect to the work as well, I hope. No, my paintings kind of occupy a space somewhere between, they're not quite abstract. There's always something that gives you a reference that you can identify and will give you a sense of place and a sense of scale. I don't think I've ever done anything quite as just paint and painting with so few indicators of what, what's there and what's imagined. And I'm really pleased with this painting, and there are things, and it's about as far as I can take abstraction and be happy. There's some, there are elements which are, almost entirely just paint collage that you would be difficult to say what that was meant to represent. Here, not so much. You can feel the cold and the ice and the lilies. But being able to combine them is actually quite difficult. Or this area here, which is, doesn't, you can read that as light coming through the reeds and through the trees. Difficult to read that other than, drips of paint and paint things. But I'm very, very pleased with this painting. I like this painting a lot. Usually when you have a painting at home and you're looking at it every day, you begin to see bits. You think, oh God, I wish I'd done that different, or I wish I'd changed this. Which is why I varnish them, because you can't change it once they're varnished. But I look at this one and I think, no, I didn't. That's about as... there are very few of any areas which I'm not which I'm unhappy with. It is a lily pond, but certainly if you took the lilies out, I think you would struggle to say exactly what it was. But shown beside the other painting, the summer painting, I think they're a good pair. And if you're looking not for a legacy, that's the wrong word, but I'd be happy for them to, if people were in art books, if they put this in and maybe the other one, you would get a grasp of what I've been trying to say. It's been a long time trying to say it, but and funnily enough, I've never really, having done that painting, I haven't gone down that route very much since, though. I think it needs a scale and so on, which I haven't been painting on such a big scale recently. So I'm really keen, as I think I said, that the pair are hung together and folk can, I hope, get as much pleasure out of them as well. But I definitely think it can be enjoyed on many levels, and I hope it gives you some pleasure. This group of paintings obviously have a lot in common. You can see that. It's been a lot of fun to do, and I have to give the credit to two artists who I've never met, but whose work I found on Instagram posts. Cheered me up, and I thought, that would be fun to do. The first one is an artist called Florence Hutchins, who's a young English artist. What drew me to her was she seemed to be able to draw badly and make it look good. So these wonky tables were a great release for me. I thought suddenly you don't have to make it work. It can just be daft. But it was quite liberating. And then I discovered the guy who paints these vases. His name's Jonas Wood, and I think he's a big American artist. A few years ago did these big, large canvases with the Greek vases, but they had such a sense of fun. I thought, I've got to get them to some of my still lifes. I probably won't do many more, but they were great fun to do. The black and white horse and again the wonky figure. And so in a painting like this, which I'll talk about later, this edge is actually quite important to me. The idea that it's not a crisp, finished edge, but in some ways it's inexplicable. Why is it like that? But it's like that because I want it to be like that, not because it's right or wrong. It's because I want it to be there, and it's my painting, so it's there. The original inspiration of these things was probably Matisse, in that he painted in his hotel room in Nice. He made life look so wonderful. Everything was happy and joyful, and I've always tried to bring that in. So bright flowers, green guitars, the watermelons, the blue sapphire gin. These started life as anemones and ended up as sunflowers. Sunflowers, they have such a story to tell themselves. You don't have to explain them. Everyone gets Van Goghs, and they're almost flowers you look at and smile. There's not much to say about these other than they're fun. As I get older, I want to paint more fun. So these are maybe, in some ways they're like the work I've done before, certainly the flowers, but they're maybe, if you're discerning, you'll see there's a sort of slight more freedom and looseness to them. And every artist I know aspires to paint looser or do looser or more abstract. I'm looking forward to seeing these in the gallery together because they've never been shown before anywhere. The response from people to your work is really important as to how you move on. This painting here is one. It's not sure if it's finished yet. I think it might be, but I'm working on it just now for my show at the Heinzel Gallery, and it's called Calahonda Dreaming, which may be the best thing about it, the title, which is obviously taken from California Dreaming, the mamas and papas hit of the 60s. I found out recently that cultural references when you're my age don't always transfer very well. This is a painting about, we have a timeshare on the Costa del Sol, in between Marbella and Estepona. Had it for a long, long time, since the kids were very small. The whole thing has been developed in a very similar type of, almost a Moorish influence on the architecture. And they have, so this is where people would live, and this is like the beach bars and shops and along the coast are fishing boats and leisure boats and so on. So these are great fun to paint. I get to use them with full range of collage and work within a colour palette that I'm comfortable with, and then contrast, you know, the oranges with the blue, and then even room for green. They're meant to be fun pieces, really. They're not, don't take them too seriously. You make different choices as you go along. Some things work, some things don't work. And eventually I say, I think this might be finished, but you know, I could come back to it tomorrow. I'm in the wrong mood. I'll end up painting half of it again. You'll see bits of collage, music, as usual, where my wife's a musician, so I have these, used to be her music I cut up, but I managed to find paper napkins that were music, and so they're a bit better. And I'll quite enjoy the boats, the idea of the shade being provided by the cloths and blankets over the railing. So it's just a scene I've returned to, you know, a few times, because it's in my memory, because I've been there often. I can just picture what it is I'm trying to do. Though I have to say there's a lot of invention in the process as well. So I hope when it's finished it looks a bit like this. In fact, I hope it looks a lot like this, and that you enjoy it as much as I did painting it. I said that this painting doesn't have quite a title yet. I think I was going to call it Golden Road Harris, and I'll try and explain that in a minute. Some people imagine that I just make these things up entirely, you know, just out of my head. But in actual fact, unless I've been somewhere, I find it impossible. I don't have to look at photographs, I don't have to even have sketches, but I do need to have experienced it. You know, it was at one point, not that long ago, it was going to be a painting of around here, the Mairns, and I had a cluster of houses here and trees, which is very much the landscape around here. But I was looking at it and there was something bugging me, and then I realised actually it was saying to me more about the last place we'd been on holiday in Scotland, which was the Isle of Lewis and Harris. The landscape's quite different from here. For one thing, there's almost no trees, and the colours are just different. The colour of the earth, the colour of the bracken, heather is different. And I realised that was what the painting was telling me. So I made some changes to it, and the houses in Harris and Lewis are scattered around. You get one here, one there. They're not in a clusters like they tend to be, the farms and village houses around here. And so we worked, that gave me a new, where I'd been struggling a little bit with where to take it. I suddenly knew where it was going, and I was able to then to push ahead. So this bit here, at one stage wasn't there at all. It was actually a dark blue. This was the area it was kind of given the painting its identity, the bright orange sky, and then the hills, and it was meant to be a body of water. But when it became Harris, I thought I'll try and sneak in one of the beaches. The beaches in Harris and Lewis are just phenomenal. It would be daft to try and paint the picture without indicating them. So it's just a little slash of bright colour. So the idea is that you're coming in, the Golden Road is a road from Lewis to Harris. It goes all the way down the coast and round and up the other side. And everywhere you look, you'll see the crofts and the little steadings. and the landscape. And this is a big sea loch really became, instead of a body, well, it's a sea loch. I'm not sure, it's certainly not finished yet. In fact, I thought it was finished the other day, and you'll be able to see maybe on one of the clips, this was different. These were all blues and purples, and I thought, oh, I'll change it, I'll move it, and I made a mistake, I think. So I'll probably go revisit this area here. I don't think that's quite ready, but this, no, I'm happy with places like that. That, I think, works. You may wonder, what is that, you know, but for me it's a visual element that works quite well. There's collage, and the houses here are done, no, the perspective is that they're done with a lot less detail, so hopefully you'll see them as going into the distance. So a bit of work to do, but I'm pretty sure that it'll be what I want it to be, which is a remembrance really of a nice holiday, and a place I'd like to go back to someday.